Hello everyone. Today I will be featuring a new and up-and-coming premium that is still a work in progress, the T-61. The matchmaking, tier 8, I mean, you kinda gotta expect it these days when you're playing tier 6. It's one of the reasons why I expect a lot of things from T6 premiums these days. It's because the matchmaking is horrid, so it kinda has to be super powerful. And well, the T-61 certainly fits that bill. The T-61 is kind of the Dutch half-brother of the Ernst Gaede, the tier 6 German DD. But even though they are similar, the T-61 is, in my opinion, quite a fair amount stronger. Now, the health pool, the base health pool on this thing is 14.7k. If you run Survivability Expert, as I'm doing here, because I'm running my German DD captain on this ship, you end up with 16.8. That's quite significantly less than what the Gaede has. The Gaede has 16.5 base, so of course if you run the captain on him, you would end up with far more HP than you have here. In fact, you end up with 1.8k more health, which is pretty significant. The speed also goes in the Gaede's favor. With the speed boost flag you can reach 36.8 on the T-61, whereas the Gaede reaches 37.8. But that's kind of where the advantages for the Gaede end. After this, it's all the T-61 show. Starting off, I'm pushing into a cap, as you can see, and I'm quite happily contesting it, and that's because the concealment is significantly better. Without Concealment Expert, the Gaede has 7.3, this one has 6.8. When you add in Concealment Expert, you of course end up with a concealment of 6.1, which means that you are competitive with all forms of DDs. Now, sadly my team is extremely slow at backing me up. I have no carrier support here either, because we have a full strike ranger, so I end up eating a ton of damage at the start, and honestly I'll keep pinging my teammates to maybe help me a bit here, because the enemy team is right outside the cap. My team is still sitting in base, hugging our ranger and pretending that they are useful. So not exactly the best start of a game. In this case I spot a Nürnberg moving into the cap, and Nürnberg, of course, unlike the German DDs, the German cruisers have access to a superpowered hydro, which means that even with my hydro active, he will outspot me. So I have absolutely no interest in staying here and being spotted by him, and I take this moment to disengage and flee for my life, hopefully surviving. Use the AA on the ship is better than the Gaedes. I think it's actually quite significantly better, but ultimately this kind of difference doesn't really matter because the AA is still garbage. You can see I'm not shooting down any planes. These planes are hovering right on top of me, fighting right on top of me, and I'm not shooting down any planes. And that's because it's extremely short range and it's still low tier DD AA, which means it's pretty much completely useless. So it's in favor of the T-61, but you're not going to be noticing the difference. What you will notice the difference on, though, is the maneuverability. Even though the T-61 is slower by 1 knot if you're running the flag, it has a significantly better turning circle, 600 meters versus 690 on the Gaede, and it also has a better rudder shift, 3.6 versus 4 seconds of rudder shift. This tighter turning circle and rudder shift means that I also run the acceleration module on the ship, unlike on the Gaede, because I feel I can get away with it on this ship, which is of course a nice advantage. Another huge thing is the torpedoes. The torpedo reload difference is massive. First of all, they both have identical excellent torpedoes. The Gaede and the T-61 torpedoes are excellent. They have 8 km range. They have 65 knots of speed and only 1.3 km detection. In comparison, Shinonome torps have 63 knots of speed, that's 2 knots slower, and 1.6 km detection. So these torps are 300 meters stealthier than Shinonome torps. Yes, they deal like around 1k less damage per torp, but 300 meters of additional concealment on the torpedoes is massive, as well as being faster. So Gaede and T-61 torps are straight up really good. Here comes a massive difference though. The Gaede has a torpedo reload of 90 seconds. The T-61 has a torpedo reload of 68 seconds. That is a 25% faster torpedo reload on a T-61. 25, a quarter faster. It's massive. It's straight up, it's incredibly huge. And that means that this T-61, unlike the Gaede, is actually an excellent torpedo boat. if you look at my torpedo reload, this is what happens when you have the torpedo reload perk, which gives you 10%. And of course you run Adrenaline Rush, which is one of my favorite perks as well. So when you run both of these things at the same time, your torpedo reload will easily dip underneath 1 minute. 1 minute torpedo reload. So that combined with, of course, this very fast and strong torpedoes, and combined with the improved concealment of 6.1, means that you are straight up a superior torpedo boat to the Gaede in every single way. And it doesn't really end there. You're also a superior gunboat. Your range is slightly better. You got 11.9 versus 11.6 versus Gaede's 10.9. Okay, that's not really that big of a deal. That's like 700 meters, but it is a small advantage. What is important is that even though the T-61 can't slot the 150mm guns like the Gaede can, it has a 4-second reload on the guns. The Gaede, on the other hand, has a 5.1. So T-61 has 4, Gaede has 5.1. That's again a more than 20% better gun reload, which of course means more than 20% better DPM. So the torpedoes, 25% advantage, guns, 20% advantage. That's pretty goddamn huge when we are comparing what are essentially sister ships. And it's not like these torps are sluggish. The Amagi, for example, has an excellent torpedo belt, but when he gets... You see how fast these torps are? When he gets caught off guard like this, it doesn't matter how good the torpedo belt is, because he's going to eat all of them. And that's a tier 8 Amagi that's especially strong against torpedoes being blapped out. And I just launched my torps, and my torps have 20 seconds left on their cooldown. So this ship is excellent. I don't really see any other way to describe it. It is just straight up excellent. If ranked tier 6 was a thing right now, this would absolutely be a top tier pick. These god tier torps, the addition of hydro. The only downside, there are of course downsides. I mean, it's German DD hydro, which means short duration, but it's still hydro. No one else really has it, among DDs that is. The smoke is of course German smoke, very short duration smoke. It lasts 61 seconds. And if you're not running the premium smoke, you got almost a 4-minute cooldown on it, which is of course why I always recommend the premium smoke. But this torpedo power is just, it's too juicy to like give up. When you run a German DD captain, which I'm running on this, I mean it's a premium ship, so you can easily put your captain on it, and you just farm kills. You gotta consider, this is tier 8 matchmaking. Tier 8 matchmaking with a carrier on the enemy team, and I've had no real issues. This was like my first or second game in the ship, and I had no issues just farming non-stop damage in this thing. And this is considering the horrible start of this game as well, with my team completely abandoning me. I mean, look at my battleships. The guys that sat down in spawn, they're still sitting on the 10 line, like completely useless battleships, not helping me at all in sea. And even with that horrible start that took almost all my health, I've just been able to go completely ham. Here I'm just launching my torps to check my cooldown, and it's just the cooldown is highly impressive. I was streaming this game, so someone asked me what it was, so I just launched my torps to check, because the cooldown is so short that you can literally do this, and by the time I actually catch up to the ships up north, my torps will be available again. So fundamentally, comparing the T-61 to the Gaede, Gaede has 2 advantages. One, not of speed, and 1.8k health. Everything else goes to the favor of the T-61. Some of these things go massively in the favor, like 7.3 km conceal versus 6.8. That's massive. 90-second torpedo reload versus 68-second reload. Massive. Gun reload 5.1 versus 4. Massive. It's turning circle 690 versus 600. That's what a 15% better turning circle. Like massive. This thing, if you wanted to make the argument that there is not pay to win or like a premium advantage in this game, the Gaede would be the worst, or the T-61 would be the worst example, because this feels in almost every single aspect like a straight up better Gaede, in every single aspect. Like there are almost no downsides. If you put this ship against the Gaede, this ship will win every time with so many different advantages. I think it's a bit ridiculous, a bit silly in that sense. Even nose-in torps have a very good chance of landing because they are fast. 65 knots, 1.3 km concealment. That's not a lot of reaction time left. I might even hit the turrets behind him, because he probably didn't even spot those torps on the side. Even if he did, will the turrets even be able to dodge in time? Looks like he just barely did, but my next volley of torps is almost ready. Like, you don't fear anyone trying to rush your smoke, because why would you? Your smoke firing concealment is, I think, 2.8, 2.6. I think it's 2.6. So I can still fire here, and only now do I stop firing it to let this guy die out. And he's about to hit my torps, so I just continue shooting. Yes, I get spotted, who cares? My torps finish him off as well. And my next torp volley is 30 seconds away. It's a monster. The T-61 is, I think, in its current state, it's a bit too much. Keep in mind that this is still, of course, a work in progress. I mean, they're still tuning these and so forth. But right now, there is no flavor of choice between... when I see premiums, I don't mind them having some advantages over the silver ships, as long as the silver ships have some advantages in return. But the small advantages the Gaede has compared to the massive advantages that the T-61 has, these are not equal trades. These are not fair trades. I don't think this is an even trade-off in any way. I don't feel like there's any flavor available. Like, do I want to play the Gaede or T-61? I don't really know. I like these features, but this ship has these features. There's none of that. It's just straight up a superior ship, and that is, in my opinion, the sign of a bad design. A badly designed premium. If it's straight up superior, why ever play the other one? And that kind of design doesn't really... I don't really like that kind of design. The battleship, I'm hilariously looking at the battleship in our spawn, he's still full health. We've been battling around C the entire game, and this full health guy is only now leaving spawn. Jesus. But then again, it is patch day, and patch day is kind of like perma weekend. The game does finally end though, and looking at the score, 133,000 damage, 15 torpedo hits against tier 8. This is considering the terrible start as well. If I'd gotten that turrets at the end, I would have gotten a Kraken as well. Of course, I don't get any rewards since it's a test ship, so I didn't get any high caliber Confederate and so forth, or devastating strike on the Amagi, for example. But still, 15 torpedo hits in a tier 6 DD. It really tells the tale of the pure torpedo strength that this ship has available. Scoreboard wise, number 1, 2.1k base. Could have probably even gotten a higher base score. Against tier 8, no struggle. Against tier 6, I think if you get tier 5, tier 6 matchmaking, the T-61 will laugh at pretty much all of its competition. Like, I don't see anyone who can take it on, especially if you get tier 5, tier 6 and there's no radar on the enemy team, which means you can use your Hydra to the full extent of its power, 4k in range, which means you push into the enemy, you smoke up your Hydro, and then you just shoot them in their smokes while they can't see you. So, strength-wise, excellent. Just superbly strong. Damage-wise, 15 torps, 112k damage, plus some gunpower on top. Not really that big of a deal. This is fundamentally still a torpedo boat with this excellent reload and excellent torps, so the ship is insane. I'll show you my recommended build that I have for it for now. Right, my preemptive build of the T-61, of what little I have played it, is, well, I of course run all premium consumables, but in order of priority I would recommend get the damage control and get at least the premium smoke, because German smokes have such a short duration, and if you have to wait almost 4 minutes for your 60-second smoke, then you're gonna end up being quite frustrated. So definitely get premium smoke gen, and if you can afford it, premium Hydra or speed boost, or all of them if you can afford it. It is a premium ship after all. Upgrade wise, main gun and turret torpedo survival, better dispersion, and better torpedo tube traverse speed. Usually I might run AA guns in this slot on ships that don't really benefit too much like this one does. But the AA is so weak and so short range that I don't really consider it worth it, and I'd rather take the small upgrades to the guns and the torpedoes instead. Hydro duration module, this is good on any ship that uses Hydro often, but remember that this is not German cruiser Hydro, this is German DD Hydro, which means the range is pretty underwhelming. so it's not that valuable. It's a nice bonus, but if you don't have it, it's really not the end of the world. You can just run propulsion mod instead. And finally, here I run propulsion mod 2, which means better acceleration. Now, this is not something I would run on the Gaede, but on the T-61, because it has a tighter turning circle and tighter rudder shift, I think I can get away with running the better acceleration. And of course, it means stopping faster as well. So this one is quite good for the times when you do use your smokes to sit stationary and so forth, and you need to dodge incoming torpedoes. Captain perks wise, I'm straight up running my Z52 captain, because I'm not going to put a completely new captain here. I just took my Z52, and because it's a German DD captain, it of course fits extremely well into this build. The basic build is of course preventive maintenance, followed by last stand, followed by survivability expert, followed by concealment expert. That's the 10-point base. And from here we can build on 12 points into adrenaline rush, 15 points into torpedo armament, and here we get some flexibility. We have 4 points left. RPF is always good, but considering the Z52 has a 10-second turret traverse, whereas the T-61 has this 22.5 second. If you're making a captain specifically for this ship, I might try to squeeze in expert marksman, because 22.5 is pretty sluggish, and because the gun caliber is only 128 mil, you would actually benefit quite a lot from having this expert marksman, as you would get the 2.5 degrees per second increase. So instead of maybe going superintendent, maybe try to slip in expert marksman in there instead. It's not that superintendent is a bad pick, because of course you get speed boost, hydro, and smoke. So the basic German DD build works extremely well on this, but it could be optimized further by trying to work in expert marksman. Flag wise, of course, basic signals is of course speed, detonation, fire chance, and well, faster consumable usage is always nice when you use a lot of consumables. On this one you have like 3 or 4 that you use consistently, so using them a bit faster is always nice. Other than that, just whatever XP bonuses or money bonuses in case you're making money you think are necessary. The camo is, well, I kept the default camo on this because I think the default camo actually looks really good on this, but it does only give you 50% bonus XP, so if you want to get some additional, you can of course slot your own camos on instead. Anyway, this was my first impression of the T-61, and honestly, it's a super powered version of the Gaede in almost every single way, and I have a hard time not calling it pretty much straight up overpowered in comparison to the Gaede, because if you have this one and you have the Gaede going 1 versus 1, the T-61 will absolutely shit on the Gaede. It will outspot it will outturn it, it will outgun it. It's a very unfair matchup in that sense. Sure, the Gaede has some advantages like the slight health and slight speed boost, but it's not enough to justify these huge differences. I mean, when you run the torpedo reload captain on the ship, you get a 61-second torpedo reload, which is insane. It's so damn good. It's monumentally good, and the Gaede can't compete with this kind of torpedo and firepower. The difference is just too massive, and in that case, I feel like they kind of need to tune this thing down a bit, because right now it's pretty much the premium version of the Gaede in every wargaming sense of the word. Anyway, and that was all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed it.